Argentina had Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest player alive, and a roster worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Their opponent had never even won a single World Cup match in their entire history. Argentina lost. This wasn't some fluke from decades ago. This happened in 2022. In the opening game of the tournament, Argentina eventually went on to win. Today we're breaking down the greatest World Cup upsets ever. The moments when the so-called weaker team completely flipped the script, and by the end, you'll understand exactly why these shocking results keep happening tournament after tournament. Quick basics before we dive in. The World Cup is like the Super Bowl, except only one happens every 4 years. And instead of 2 teams, it's 32 countries battling through weeks of matches. An upset means a team that's supposed to lose, based on ranking, money, and talent, beats a team that's supposed to win. Think of it like a random walk-on college team beating an NFL franchise. In most sports, that basically never happens. In World Cup football, it happens just often enough to make the entire tournament unpredictable. Let's start in 1950, because this one is almost unbelievable. The United States, a country where football barely existed as a sport at the time, faced England. England basically invented modern football. They were considered one of the best teams on the planet. The American squad wasn't even full of professional footballers. Their roster included a dishwasher, a mailman, and a hearse driver, guys with regular day jobs who just happened to also play football. The final score was 1-0. USA won. English newspapers were so stunned by the result that some editors genuinely assumed it was a typo, thinking the actual score must have been 10-1 to England. It wasn't. That game is still remembered today as one of the biggest shocks in the sport's history. 16 years later, in 1966, North Korea pulled off something almost as insane. They faced Italy, a footballing powerhouse with multiple World Cup titles already under their belt. North Korea was making their first ever World Cup appearance. Nobody outside of North Korea had even really scouted them. Pak Duik scored the only goal of the game, and North Korea won 1-0, eliminating Italy from the tournament entirely. When the Italian team flew home, fans reportedly threw rotten tomatoes at them at the airport. That's how badly this loss stung a nation that took football incredibly seriously. Here's a pattern worth noticing already. Every single one of these upsets involves a smaller, less funded nation embarrassing a football giant on the very first big stage they're given. That's not a coincidence. When a massive favorite steps onto the field, they often play with less urgency, assuming the win will come naturally. The underdog plays like their entire nation's pride depends on the next 90 minutes. Sometimes, that difference in mentality matters more than talent. Let's jump to 1990, and this one involves defending champions getting humiliated. Argentina had won the World Cup 4 years earlier in 1986, largely thanks to Diego Maradona, one of the greatest players who ever lived. In the opening match of the entire 1990 tournament, Argentina faced Cameroon, a team most casual fans couldn't have located on a map. Cameroon won 1-0. The reigning champions lost their very first game of the tournament to a team many expected to lose every match they played. Cameroon went on to reach the quarterfinals, becoming the first African team to ever get that far, a milestone that stood for years afterward. 12 years later, in 2002, almost the exact same script played out again. France, the defending champions from 1998, opened their title defense against Senegal, a team that had never even qualified for a World Cup before. Senegal won 1-0, courtesy of a goal from Papa Bouba. Think about how rare this pattern actually is. 2 different defending champions, Argentina in 1990 and France in 2002, both lost their opening match of the very next tournament to a team making a deep World Cup run for the first time. Winning it all doesn't guarantee you'll even survive the group stage next time around, and these 2 results are proof. Let's fast forward to 2018, because this upset had massive consequences most casual fans don't realize. Germany, the reigning World Cup champions from 2014, needed a win against South Korea just to advance out of the group stage. South Korea had already been eliminated from advancing themselves. They had nothing to play for except pride. South Korea won 2-0, eliminating the defending champions in the group stage entirely before the tournament's actual knockout rounds even began. Germany went home early, and South Korean players celebrated on the field like they'd won the tournament themselves, because for their country, beating the world champions felt exactly like that. Now let's talk about the upset that opened this entire video. 2022, Qatar. Argentina, led by Lionel Messi playing what everyone assumed was his final World Cup, opened the tournament against Saudi Arabia. On paper, this should not have been close. Argentina was unbeaten in 36 straight matches heading into the tournament. Saudi Arabia lost 2-1. Argentina fans back home were reportedly in disbelief, some treating it as an almost embarrassing national moment. Saudi Arabia's government actually declared a public holiday to celebrate the win. Here's the twist that makes this story even better. Argentina didn't fall apart after that loss. They regrouped, won every single match after that, and lifted the World Cup trophy at the end of the tournament. Sometimes the most shocking upset in the tournament happens to the eventual champion, and somehow it doesn't even stop them from winning at all. So why do these results keep happening over and over across different decades and different continents? Football has a built-in randomness that sports like basketball or American football don't really have. Scoring is rare. A single goal can decide an entire game. That means one moment, one mistake, one flash of brilliance from an underdog can completely erase a massive gap in talent and funding. In a sport where the final score is often just 1-0, anything can happen in 90 minutes. Here's the bigger takeaway hiding inside all of these stories. Every single upset we just covered came from a team that had almost nothing to lose. The dishwasher-filled American squad in 1950. First-timers North Korea in 1966. Cameroon and Senegal facing the exact champions who beat them in confidence, not just talent. Saudi Arabia against a Messi-led juggernaut. None of them were expected to win a single match, let alone make history. And that's exactly why these moments get remembered decades later, while plenty of routine, expected wins from bigger nations are completely forgotten. Quick recap before we wrap up. The USA shocked England in 1950 with a team of amateurs. North Korea eliminated Italy in 1966. Cameroon and Senegal both dethroned defending champions in their very next tournament appearance. South Korea knocked out Germany in 2018, and Saudi Arabia stunned an eventual champion Argentina in 2022. 5 different decades, 5 completely different countries, 1 identical lesson. Here's the final thought worth remembering. The World Cup isn't just about the best team winning. It's about 90 minutes where money, rankings, and reputation stop matching, and anything becomes possible. That unpredictability isn't a flaw in football. It's exactly why billions of people can't stop watching it. If breakdowns like this make football finally click for you, subscribe, because this channel turns the biggest moments in the sport into stories anyone can understand and enjoy.